So we're going to take a look at a few of the tools that will make this job go a little easier. Not all of them are a must. I'm going to show you what you need to get by to be able to put your boxes together and put them together correctly, and what is nice to have. It's all going to depend on how many boxes you're going to be putting together. If you're going to be putting together a lot of boxes, go the route, the better tools. If you're only going to put a few, I mean, there's no reason to buy any special tools to put this together. You're going to be using your basic tools: a hammer, nails, and some type of square. It's all you need to be able to put your boxes together. There is one thing we will need some glue to glue it. Another thing to put the boxes together is some type of mallet. You don't need it, it just makes it a little handier pounding your boxes together. Also got a little square. You can use a little combination square like this. Whatever you have, if you already have these, you don't have to buy anything special. However, these options are not the fastest and easiest way to do so. Now, if you're only going to be putting 4 or 5 boxes together, this is not a problem. Don't spend extra money to just assemble your boxes. Now, if you do plan on putting a lot of boxes together, or if you have an idea of where you want to go with your hobby, if you want to go sideline or commercial one day, you might want to go ahead and upgrade a little bit. Now, as far as upgrading, there's a few options you can go. One of them is just getting yourself a drill or driver with some screws. Screws are a very good option. They hold the box together really tight, really well. It'll make for a strong box. However, using screws, it's a little more money and it's a little more time consuming putting all the screws in. Now, it's a good option, and if you don't mind a little extra money and the time to put the boxes together, it's a good way to go. But like I said, if you want to put a lot of boxes together, this is not the way. If you only have a few boxes, remember, glue, screws, drill driver, and a square is all you need to put the boxes together and do a really good job. These will be better than nails. If you have an air compressor, is a palm nailer. These palm nailers work very well, especially if you got to put a lot of boxes together. So nails are cheap. You can still use your nails, get them all in. These, I think I probably paid 30 bucks for it. I think they're more now, but you can pick them up for the same price still at Harbor Freight. You can put a lot of boxes together with this without swinging a hammer. And one thing about swinging a hammer, as you'll see, we'll put some together with a hammer, it's harder to hold your box. This makes it really easy to hold your box and pound your nails in. So this is a good option if you have an air compressor and got quite a few boxes to put together, but don't want to spend the extra money to move to the next step. So the next step is staples. So you're going to need yourself some type of staple gun, right? So this is an air stapler. Same thing, you're going to need air compressor. Air compressor that I use is a little rigid air compressor, and it runs these tools just fine. One thing with the air compressor, you're going to have that noise of it going off, so it's not going to be something very quiet. So a staple gun or even a air nailer is going to be a great way to put a lot of boxes together. If you know you're going to be putting a lot of boxes together in the near future or the next few years, and you have the money, go ahead and just buy one of these up front. So this is a Makita, and it's worked pretty well for me. I've had it for a few years. I'm using the 1 3/4 staples. I would prefer the 2-inch staples, but they didn't have any in stock in my store when I bought this, and I bought a big box full of them. It's relatively cheap. I mean, the staples are really small. You can put a lot of boxes together for a fairly small amount of money. And the good thing about staples, I don't know if you've ever tried to pull staples up, but they're hard to pull out. So staples is a good way to go. You can also do the air nailer too, like a framing gun or something like that would work. It's up to you what you want to do, but I would suggest the staple gun. Type Bond 2 or 3 is what you're going to want to use. I like to use Type Bond 2. It's a food grade glue. It's non-toxic. It's a really good strong glue. If you have another wood glue you like to use, go ahead and use it. I prefer Type Bond 2. If you have a lot of boxes to put together, get yourself one of these bottles and get yourself a gallon. It's more expensive to go this way. The gallon will save you some money. And if you got other projects, I mean, if you're going to put together some lids or some other things that you want to do in the future, a gallon goes a long ways versus these little bottles. I like to use these little containers to put my glue in. There we go. And I like to use these little brushes. You can use a little paintbrush, maybe like a 1-inch paintbrush. That would work pretty good too for doing boxes. These also work for frames. These little ones work pretty good for frames. So today we're just going to be using these little brushes. So we got our glue. We might use this. Got a brush. Now we have our boxes. So these boxes are already pre-drilled. These are for your frame rest is all routed all the way out. So these parts are a little thinner. Some of the kits you buy, they will actually use a smaller nail for up here. It doesn't have to be. If all you have is just 7D nails, those will work fine too. You don't need to have a shorter nail. Or if you want to just use screws, It doesn't matter if they're 3-inch or if you're just using a 2-inch there. Either one will work. Some companies do not come with pre-drilled holes. If you buy some that are not pre-drilled, you will want to get yourself a drill and a bit to drill your holes out, to pre-drill on your end frames. You do not have to drill where they're going to be going in here, just where the nail is going to, just where the nail goes on through the outside board. You want the nail to be tight when it goes into the board. It's going to be fastened too. One thing you're going to want is either a wet rag or a wet paper towels to clean up the glue that'll ooze out. You want to make sure you always use enough glue that some glue comes out. That way you don't know you have enough. You don't want to be lacking any glue. Glue is actually where you're going to get most of the strength for your boxes, on your joints there. So make sure plenty of glue. You might want something to clean that up. Okay, now let's put our first box together. A few ways you can do it. Take your glue. If you want, you can paint it on these parts right here. And then put some in the corners in here and on the edges. Put plenty of glue in there. Remember, your end grain is going to want to soak a lot of that glue up. Okay, so now we got our glue there. We'll put our glue now we'll put our glue on this board. So we'll just stick this on the inside here. Just a little bit there, a little bit there. When putting these together, make sure you don't put the handles in the inside. You can't put them together with the handles in the inside, and I have done it before. Make sure handles are on the outside. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that started. Now, this is where a mallet comes in pretty handy. Pound that down, pound it over, get it in there good. If you don't have a mallet, get yourself just a little block of wood, and you can use your regular hammer to pound these in. That'll work too. So now we will do this other side. Okay, this piece. These boxes, I'm not sure where they came from. I'm not sure who made these boxes. I got these boxes. I was on Craigslist and I seen an extractor, a bottler, and a little honey sump. It was actually a really good deal. I paid $1,500 for all of them. It's a 20 frame extractor or 10 frame extractor, Maxent, and a Dadent bottler, and I think it's a Maxent, that little it's a heated honey sump or clarifier. And so a really good deal. And there was a few boxes and some frames he threw in there with it. So we got a really good deal on all that. So that's, I'm like I say, so I don't know what brand these boxes are. And I don't know how old they are, but it looks like they were stored well and maybe dried out a little bit, but they don't look too bad. So now we put glue on these guys here. I put glue on these finger joints here. Make sure you get the corners and glue on everything here. Whoa. Now we put glue on this one here. So now we have some glue oozing here. We can take that glue off so it doesn't get on everything. Okay. Now with our square, we can put it here and straighten our box out where it looks the best. These big L squares work really nice. Okay, so I like to lay it up there, and you take your nail and get it started in there. You just take your hammer. So by pounding it down, we're actually using this table as a support. If you lay it down and try to hammer it on the side, the box is going to want to slide away from you. This works the best. Now pound that down. After we pound that in, check how square we are. I want to make sure it hasn't really moved very much. It won't be perfect as we're going in. Don't worry about your fingers. You have 10 of them. You can smash a couple and keep on going. So I'm going to hold this together while I pound this in and hold that nice and tight there. So now, since I'm right-handed, I'm going to turn this around here and hold this together. Okay. Now we got 4 nails on this side. Let's flip to the other side. Take a look how square we are. We want to always make sure we're as square as we can be. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and put these in. Same thing, we're going to hold that tight. We got 4 on this side, 4 on the other side. Now we'll flip this over. And we will do this side. Now, let's check square both directions. So we've got a little bit of a gap here on the bottom. Not very much at all, less than a 32nd. And on this side we're real good. But there's a little bit of, well, yeah, there's a little bit of gap on the bottom too. So it's not perfect. We're pretty close right there. They're never going to be perfectly square. Just get them as good as you can. You don't want them way off. I mean, if you're too cockeyed, when you set the boxes down on each other, you'll have boxes overhanging, places where moisture can get in. You don't want that. Try to get them as square as you can. So one thing too, this table that bench here I have it bounces a lot. You can go ahead and set this on the concrete and pound them in, making things a little easier. So when pounding these on the frame rest, you want to try to go fairly straight, but a little going down into the box is okay, but not too much, or else you'll split the wood. Just a little bit. Okay, so for the last few nails, we'll put them in with this palm nail. I'll show you how easy it is. When you make sure they can actually go in all the way, and so they're not protruding at all. Go ahead and clean all that glue off the boxes here on the edges. On the inside, I don't know if you can see that we got a nail that's starting to come out. This one, even though I had tried to taper them down a little bit, came to the top and chipped the top out. It happens, and there's not much you can do about that. Just trying to get as straight as you can before you pound them in. But if you can see down in here, we have some glue coming out. Just go ahead and leave that, that's fine. Some of that will get sucked back in as it dries off, and whatever is there won't hurt nothing. So that box is nice and strong, ready to be painted. But let's go ahead and put some of these other boxes together. We'll show you how to do it some different ways. Like I said, remember the handle, you want it on the outside. So we got a little damage to this box. It is what it is. We're going to use them anyways. I prefer using this little brush. You can get by probably with the bigger brush and still do a real good job with it. But it's just a lot easier than trying to use that squeeze bottle. And if you want, you can go ahead and wash this brush out and save it for next time. See, if your box was like that, that would be terrible. It is way out of square. You always want to make sure you slide that up, get that squared up. So as you can see, this square works a lot better. These little ones, you can use them in the inside and square things up too. You'd see if it was out. Push it together so it's straight. Go ahead and do it this way. I can see I got a gap here. So I need to tip this over Now we'll check square again. Make sure we're good. So I prefer, when I'm using wood screws, I prefer the Torx. The Torx are way easier, you strip a lot less, and that's what I like to use. Let's go this side. This wood over here was really soft. It didn't grab very well over there. Peek what we got here. We'll make sure they're square. Got 2 more screws in here. Put 2 more here. Big gap there. I see. Got out of square a little bit. Looks real good there. Pretty good. Wipe some of this glue off here. I'm going to be really easy putting these screws in. One cracked. This one's going to crack too. But there we go. These frame rests that are routed all the way through and have a little thin spot. They have more of a tendency to do that. I got a bunch of boxes coming in from Ben & Perry's. They actually do not do that. They router just this piece out, which allows a nice big piece right here instead of this thin piece. These thinner ones, they're going to have a tendency to crack a lot more. This thing is not perfectly square. I could see on this side here. Is it here? Oh, here. There's a big difference. And so you're going to have some rocking. That's not good. But like I said, these boxes are pretty old and they're going to be twisted and everything a little bit. They're actually not in that bad of shape for being fairly old and never being put together. That little bit of gap, some of that will get pushed down just with the weight of everything. If you are concerned a little bit about it, before you put these on the Hive, you can stack them together, put your lid on, put a big old block on top, and help kind of reshape everything a little bit. Now that we've covered the simple ways of putting a Hive together, we're going to get a little more expensive putting it. Using staples is cheaper than putting the nails and the screws in. For the initial cost to get set up, it's going to be a little more money. However, this is my preferred way of putting boxes together. So here's the jig that I made. I believe it's out of 1.5 inch to 1/8 inch square tubing. And then these toggle clamps. And so when you build it, you got to be very, very careful when you're building. You try to make it as square as you can, because if you make it out of square, all your boxes will be out of square. If you got a lot of boxes to do, this is the way to go. You don't want to try to be checking squareness on every single box you're doing. That's just very time consuming. See if you can buy a jig like this somewhere, have someone make it for you, or if you have the skill to, make one yourself. I got this on an old wheel bearing here. I believe I have a video on me making the stand for it. I don't have a video of when I made this. Real simple, not complicated. I like it so you can turn it while you're working so you don't gotta walk around it. I need a bigger base on the bottom so it doesn't tip over. And then I need to make a place to hang my gun on the bottom. Hang it down here so it's out of the way. So let's give this jig a try and see how it works. All right, same thing, lots of glue. There's one board ready to go. Put our board on here. The last one. All right, so now we take our clamps. We clamp down. So We have a little bit of an issue right here. We're not going in all the way. Tap it in. And clamp it down. You gotta have those clamps tight. I got some adjustments so I can clamp them down. It actually bows in a little bit. That allows you to get a nice tight clamp on these joints here. Tap them all in. It looks good. Now we'll just shoot some staples in. There we go. Now we can check for square. And we should be really, really close. So, I don't know if you can see this here, but it's money. And that saves a lot of time of having to square things up. Everything's nice and tight. Box is ready to go.